Website has been going pretty well recently. I've been going through and creating a whole bunch of pages. I made a little contact page pretty recently. We worked on the downloads page in the last video that I uploaded. I also created a merch page where people can go and buy some of the t-shirts that I sell. They're not really channel related stuff. I just make t-shirts for fun, and I've sold a few of them, so I thought I'd throw them on the website, see if anyone's interested. And none of this is really all that interesting, and that's why I haven't really turned on the screen recorder while I was doing it. I did, however, get to a few pages that were pretty interesting. Not that long ago, I created a proper home page for the website, and that one's a bit unique. You can see there's some new types of elements that we haven't really worked on yet. And then also, I intentionally haven't done the portfolio page yet so that this will work. A 404 error page, which is cool. Again, this is some stuff with images that really hasn't been talked about much on the channel at all. So that's what we're talking about today, is dealing with images in a more advanced way than we have. We really haven't talked much about images. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Let me give myself some more to work here. Okay, and I'm gonna go into a website directory here. So the first thing that might be worth mentioning is that if we go into the images folder on this website, there are a couple of new images here. It's nothing really too special, just a few shots that I've taken of various versions of my desk and stuff. A few images that I like to use as backgrounds, and that's about it. I'm just mentioning that I dropped them in the images folder. These are pretty small images. And that's ideal. I've compressed them quite a bit. Not so much that they look terrible, but enough that they should load pretty quickly on not the best Wi-Fi, which that's definitely a concern with the website. Yeah, that's about it. Let's go ahead and copy a page. I'll just copy this terms page, and I guess we can start with the 404 page. So we'll copy that and call it 404.html. Go into the 404 page, and let's jack with some stuff here. So I'll go ahead and just sort of rename the page here. Let's call it 404 or go to error 404. Okay, so this 404 page right now is just a copy of the privacy policy. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to come in here and let's go down to the main tag, and I'm just going to start off by wiping everything in between the two main tags, the closing main and the opening main. That'll work. And then the next thing we want to do is create some custom CSS, because we want to do a full page image. And right now that's not something that we have at all. Right now, if we look at our CSS link, we're just linking to one CSS file in css/main.css. The thing is, we're not going to do a ton of CSS on this page, so it wouldn't make sense really to create a whole different file, at least not in my head. So what I'm going to do is inside of the head here, we're going to create a style tag. This is a really cool HTML tag because what it allows you to do is just embed some CSS right into the HTML document. Oh, and then one other thing I should do before I mention, since I mentioned we want to get rid of the header and the footer, I will actually literally just delete those. So I'll delete this whole header chunk, and then I'll delete the whole footer chunk, and we'll just literally get just a tiny amount of stuff in here. And that should clean up the page a bit more. Okay, very nice. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is I'll select our main tag here. And the way we'll do that is we'll just type in main and open up some curly braces, and inside of this we will do we want to set all the margins to 0 if we can, and then I'm going to say background image, and we'll do URL and close out of that, and the image that I want to use is in images, and it's going to be this desk A image. In order to select that, we will just type in images, or we need to surround it in quotes, and then we'll type in images, that's the name of the folder, and then we'll do desk A.jpg. Okay, and if we refresh now, I don't think anything will happen. Yeah, because we have to set up the size for this. So we're going to say height 100%, and we'll go ahead and set up some of the background stuff. We'll do background, position, center, and then we'll do background repeat, no repeat, and then we'll do background size cover. And then final thing we'll do in here is we're going to say text align to the center. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to end up using this main tag to store some text in. So there'll be like, a heading in here and some other stuff. And all the stuff that's inside of that, we're going to want to be center aligned. So we need to come up here to the top. And what we'll do is we're just going to select the body, which is of course the body tag. And we'll also select the HTML tag. We're also going to set the height for both of these to 100%. And then what we'll do is we're going to select star, which should be just basically everything. And then let's see what we can do here. Let's do margin equals 0 EM, and we'll do padding also equals 0 EM. And then if we reload here, I think now we should have an image back here. Okay, cool. So this should be a full width and height image. It's not really going to change based on whether we scroll or not. That's exactly what we want. So the way to set that up is you have to set the body and the HTML to 100%, all the margins to 0, and I think we can actually delete that and it shouldn't make a difference. Okay, it does make a difference. We also need to set that to the margin on the main to 0 as well. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and actually put some stuff inside of this main tag. And I won't do too much here. I'm just going to create a quick H1 and we'll do an H3 and take a look at that. Very cool. Got a little bit of an issue with the spacing on the H1, it looks like there. So what we could actually probably do is we'll go H1, H4, and H3, and those are all the headers that we're using on this site. And I'm just going to open up some squiggly braces. We're going to say padding equals 0 EM and margin can equal 0 EM. And yeah, that'll work for now. Go ahead and take another look. Cool, much better. I want to add a little bit of spacing up here. So what I could do is I'll come in here and I'll make a quick div. We'll say ID equals, let's say spacer, I guess, and close out of that, close the div. And then if we hop in here, we can just select that spacer ID and we'll say margin, or we'll do padding on the top, maybe 10%. Reload. Okay, that ain't it. I don't know if this will actually make a difference. Maybe we could just try it as a class rather than an ID. I really don't know why that would make a difference, but I don't know why that would have worked like that. I was adding padding, not a margin. Oh yeah, that actually did seem to what? That doesn't make any sense. Hang on, let me try that again. I'm gonna change it back to an ID. No, that definitely does make the difference. I do not know why that makes a difference, but apparently it definitely does. So I guess use a class instead of an ID. I'll probably end up Googling that a bit later to see if we can figure out what the heck is going on there. But for now, we'll just do a class and okay, that works. Next up, I want to add a couple of buttons in here. And the way to do buttons is a little funky. All we're gonna do is we're going to open up an A tag and close an A tag, and we'll say href, give it a link to go to. For now, we'll just do a blank link, and inside of that, we will do a button, go home, close the button, and then let's make a copy of that, get another button in there, and we'll say bug report. Okay, refresh. Now I got a couple of buttons. Very nice. I might want to put those on separate lines so we can just drop a line break in the middle there. Don't know if I like that more or less, but that's okay for now. And that's actually probably about it for this page. It looks fine. It doesn't really need to be too complex or anything. I think it's doing the job. It points us where we need it to go, and it looks great. So checking on mobile here. Yeah, that's fine. And light mode. Actually, that's probably going to be an issue. We didn't jack with the text color at all. Yeah, so what we can do is come up to this place where we mess with the headers, and we'll just say color, and I happen to know the hexadecimal value for the dark mode color here. It's EBDCAD. And if we reload now, should look good on light and dark mode. Okay, there we go. That's a 404 page. Very nice. Now let's move on to creating this index page. We will quit out of that and let's make another copy of the terms page, I guess, and we'll call this one index.html. Go ahead and get in here. One thing I should mention beforehand, we are actually going to create a second CSS page for this one, which isn't very difficult to do at all. We'll just, whatever file manager you use or whatever IDE, just create a new file. I'm going to call it index.css. And then if we take a look, we have an index CSS file and a main CSS file. And then if I open up the index page, all we have to do is literally just create a second CSS link, and we'll change the name to index rather than main. And now we're going to be linking to two separate CSS files. And the way that it works is that since we linked the main CSS file first, it will read that. Remember, CSS is basically cascading, so the lowest thing in the stack is what will actually be applied. So it'll apply everything from the main page and then apply everything from the index CSS page. So if we make any changes that conflict with each other, it's going to be using the settings that we put on the index.css page, which is probably exactly what we want. So let's get started here. I'm going to clear out everything in between the main tags again, probably. That just seems like a good way to get started, keep things nice and clean. We are going to keep the header and footer on this one. So it's a pretty good starting point. And so what I'll go ahead and do is I'm just going to create a couple of divs on this page. I'll start with one, I guess. So I'll go in, I'll create a div, and I'll go to class. And I'm going to say this is the welcome class. And I'll go ahead and close that and close the div. And if we take a look at the original page here, what we basically have is 4 little images with some padding around them all. And I've got one that's just like, hey, welcome to the site. Another one that's linked to my portfolio. Another one that's linked to my downloads and my YouTube channel. These are basically, these are literally just 4 different divs with some custom CSS. So let's go and set that up. I will literally just copy the text that I put on the original. So what I can do is I will just say, hey, this is an H1, and we'll say, welcome, close the H1, and then here's a paragraph with some text in it, and close the paragraph. Refresh, got a little bit of a start, so let's keep running with that. Oh, hey, I see why we had that issue with the spacer ID last time. It's because I already have an ID called spacer in my main.css page. I bet that's what the issue was. I totally didn't even think about that. Wow, that's wild. Would have been cool to notice that then when we weren't on a totally different page, but okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and open up that index CSS page and get started here. The first thing I will do here is I will literally just select the div welcome. Okay, that's the div we just created. And inside of this, let's go ahead and set up that background image again and put that in there. It's going to be images/desk a.jpg. I think I used literally the exact same image on both of these. And it's going to be the same type of thing. We're going to do background, repeat, background, position, and we'll do background size. One other thing I'll do is I'll do text align to the center, just like we did with the last div. That should go ahead and line stuff up a bit. And you can see we do actually have an image here, as well as some text. So let's get to messing with that. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of the margins basically everywhere. Once again, I'll come up to the top and I'll select the HTML, the everything asterisk HTML, and then the main. And I'll just say margin 0. And if we refresh now, cool, that'll take up the whole width of the page. Now what we need to do is we need to select the H1, which should be what's creating this padding up here. So what we'll do is we'll open up some curly braces and we'll just say margin equals 0 em. And while we're in there, we might set a different color for it so that it doesn't change on the light mode. And we can just use probably white would be fine. So that's FFF. And then what we need to do is we need to select that spacer ID that was in the HTML. We'll change the margin top and let's set it to 100 pixels. The reason for that is because the margin top is going to start measuring from the top of the page, but we really just want it to start from the bottom of this footer. So, okay, yeah, we're close there. Let's try maybe 80. We can get a little bit closer. We'll do 70. Whoops, 70 pixels that is. And Okay, cool. That's fine. We could get it a lot closer, but I actually want there to be a tiny amount of padding around the image. So what I'll do is I will select the main tag again. Inside of this, I'm going to say margin 10 pixels. And what that should do is put a 10 pixel, border around everything. And yep, there we go. That looks good. Now let's just get rid of this border on the footer. Easiest way to do that is we will come down below this, and we'll just open up a footer selector, and we will do margin top equals 0. Reload. Boom. Looking very nice. Okay, cool. So let's hop over to the HTML for a second. And one thing I want to do is I want to change our paragraph here to be an H6. And there's not really a good reason for that other than I just want the text to be slightly bigger than what's there with an H6. And I've set up some values for H6 that are a little closer to what I want. And all right, that looks better. Let's hop back over to the CSS page. Let's select that H6 and we'll jack with the color a bit again. So we'll do color is equal to white. We'll also just set the margin to 0 just to sort of reset stuff. Nothing too funky is going to happen there. That's fine. Actually, it makes such a tiny difference that we maybe don't even need to worry about that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, next, back up to the div here. So last thing we need to do on this div here is we'll just say padding. And we'll add maybe 10 EM to the top and the bottom and 0 EM to the left and right. Give it a look. Ooh, very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, we could probably actually stand to go quite a bit bigger, actually. Maybe we'll just try 20. Okay, and doing it this way, setting just padding on the top and the bottom ensures that our text is always centered, which is very handy. One thing I might do is jack with the margin on the H6 here, even though I just got rid of it. That seems real dumb now. But all we would have to do is select the margin, and we'll say 0% on the top and the bottom, and we'll do maybe 20% on the left and the right. That should shrink the text a bit. Probably more. We'll do 30. Okay, there we go. And that's a pretty good way to get the images set up really quickly and easily. From here on out, the changes that we're going to make are pretty much sort of self-explanatory. I'm going to make a couple of copies of this div here, the welcome div, and all we really have to do is fill that in, is just change the image link with the rest of the different little card type things that we want to set up. And that's no big deal. I'm just setting a few different images in here. Literally all the other settings are the same, except I can get rid of that. And yeah, so that shouldn't make a difference at all. Keep in mind, the links to the images are not what they should be if you're uploading this to a server. You should always just start at root if you're doing it that way, but I can't do that since I'm just looking at this on a hard drive. When you are actually setting this up to go on a server, make sure your path to images starts at root and goes from there, which should be just this slash. But anyways, once we have those CSS classes set up, we can go right back over to the index page, sort of just do the same thing. We'll just build this out really quickly using some divs. Okay, there we go. And literally the only issue we're going to run into is that there's not going to be any spacing in between these different sections, and there's a couple of different ways to fix that. I tried around with a lot of things, but the easiest thing that I found to do was I just created in between each one of these divs a class. And so we'll do div, open a div, we'll call it class equals space, close out the div, and we'll just copy that in between each one of the divs. Hop over to the CSS page one more time, and we'll just say select that space div, and what I can do is we'll just set a margin. We want it to be either on the bottom or the top, so we'll do a, well, I guess we'll do a top or a margin top, and we'll set it to 10 pixels, which should match the margin that we set up for the entire website, which should mean that we get equal padding in between all the images, which should be even more obvious on our light mode here. Okay, very nice, looks good. I'm happy with that. All right, cool, that'll work. Thanks everyone for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.